Okay, there are various shaped teat moulds for various animals. Also, you can get them made in metal, which last much longer, or you can get the wooden moulds. Just Google teat moulds and you should be able to find them on the internet. These are moulds that we use for possum joeys. The long pointy moulds are good for brush tails. These ones are good for ringtails. These ones are also good for brushies and ringtails, depending. Depends on your preference, and depends on the shape of the joey's mother's nipple in the first place. Some of them are really long and skinny, and then some of them are more conical. These are bat teat moulds. We've got just a small bat mould. Also this one here, the wooden one, is a small bat mould. This is a dummy, this one in the middle, and this one's fits a larger barrel syringe. This one's a really weird shaped one. I'm not all that sure it's very successful. The wooden moulds need to have a releasing agent, so I use corn flour. Just dust the corn flour over the whole mould, and then before you dip. Now I use just recycled bits of board. I drill holes in them. I've got two different size shanks on the moulds. Wooden moulds have got a much skinnier shank, and I just plonk them in whichever one is the right size. Some people put bottle caps under the moulds to let the latex drip into the bottle caps. I'm lazy and I think that's fiddly. I just drill a new hole whenever the holes fill up with latex from the drip. I also find if you've got two different boards, this one's my one dip board and this one's my second dip board, that way I can tell how many times I've dipped the teat, and if I want to dip it a third time, I either put it up one end or I bring it back to the first one again, and at least I can see that I've done it a few times because it's thicker. Generally I dip twice, but it depends on the actual latex. Sometimes the latex that I buy seems to be really thin and it needs 3 layers. Sometimes it's quite thick. Buy brush latex, don't buy pouring latex. Dipping. Wooden moulds get powdered. Okay. And then dip in the latex. This latex is quite thick, so what I'm going to do is I'm only going to do 2 dips maximum of this. Leave it there, and in a few hours you can dip it again. It hasn't quite gone into the ridge, so that this one will leak, so I blow it on it, which blows the bubble out. Then I dip it again just to fill out that little spot. This is the possum one. Just blow out any bubbles. Okay, this is a dummy, and I just want you to have a look at the ridges. I've turned it inside out. You can see how there's a little bubble there. When I dipped it, I didn't blow the bubble out fully. I obviously didn't see it. So if this was a teat, when it would be put on the bottle or the syringe, it may leak through that spot there because the ridge is not complete. And because it's got 2 ridges, if one of the ridges is fine, then it will seal on the syringe. This is a macropod or a joey teat. It's got a bubble there. and a big bubble on the outside ridge there. It's a couple of hours later. You can see that they're no longer a thick white colour, but they're sort of a transparent yellowy colour. It's time to dip again. Some people are all fingers and thumbs to begin with, and they keep rubbing against the teat moulds and the latex comes off. Don't worry, in a day or two you'll be making them with the best of them. You'll be twirling and then just plonking them into their little stands. All of these have already been dipped and dried. This one you put some corn flour on it so that it doesn't stick when you pull it off. And I pull it back like that. These are tiny little ones that we use for microbats or tiny little joeys. These ones fit 1 ml syringes. I just wiggle it to get it off, because once it's inside out you'll never get it out the right way out. Okay, and I just trim back. If you have a look, there's a ridge, that's the bit that holds it onto the syringe so it doesn't leak, so that needs to be on the inside. That's the reason that you can't just pull them off inside out and use the teats inside out. It's because you need that little ridge to stop it leaking. So I just trim back to the ridge. Okay, this is one of the wooden mould ones. So dip it into the corn flour. Rub it all over so that it doesn't stick when you turn it inside out a bit. These ones are quite easy to turn back the right way again. I trim them while they're inside out. Back to the ridge. And you just pop them inside out, back in the right way again. This one's a bat dummy. It's a medium-sized bat dummy. Pull it off. Trim. So put the finished teats in a plastic bag with a little bit of corn flour. Label them. And you're set. Store them in the freezer.